Hello everybody, welcome to the entire Spongebob Iceberg Explained. This is all three of my Iceberg videos put into one for you to listen to either while you're sleeping or doing something. Starting off with layer 1, we have Bikini Atoll. Bikini Atoll, located in the Pacific Ocean, is a part of the Marshall Islands, where in the 1940s and 1950s, the US actually tested highly nuclear weapons. They used the islands for a total of 23 tests, including the first hydrogen bomb test. The reason this isn't a SpongeBob iceberg though, is because many people see the similarities between Bikini Bottom and Bikini Atoll. They both have similar names. Also, the islands shown in the intro of SpongeBob looks really similar to the island that would be found in Bikini Atoll. Also, there's a fan theory that the reason the characters in Bikini Bottom can talk and also walk like humans is because they've been transformed by toxins that were left in the bottom of the ocean after nuclear weapons were dropped. Another theory, and the second entry of this layer, is that each main character of the show is supposed to symbolize one of the 7 deadly sins. First off, we have Sandy, which is apparently lust. Lust is when you have a strong desire or obsession with somebody else, and in my opinion, this one seems like it's correct. If you don't remember, there's this one episode where Mr. Krabs gets mad at Sandy and SpongeBob for doing karate all the time. So they stop doing karate, or at least they try to stop, but they end up doing it anyway because they're addicted to karate.
Karate sure is dumb.
Yeah, you can say that again.
I feel dumb just thinking about it. Duh, I'm stupid. I like karate. Duh. Stop. For a second, that sounded like
Karate?
right now.
There's also this theory that people think in the episode karate symbolized sex, and people thought that SpongeBob and Sandy were addicted to having sex with each other. One other character is Patrick Star, who got the sin sloth. For obvious reasons, all he does is sleep and stay in his house all day, and he's never really had a job. Here's another obvious one, which is Mr. Krabs and greed. Mr. Krabs gets greed because he is physically in love with money, even in one episode trying to marry money, and he also tried selling SpongeBob just for a few coins. I don't really feel like going in depth with every single character and what trait they got, but if you want to learn more about this, I suggest you watch this video right here that was made by Sinian. Time for the third entry, which is Patrick and Gary are related. So in the episode Rule of Dumb, it is revealed that Patrick and Gary are actually cousins. So what happens in this episode is Patrick finds out that he is related to royalty and becomes king of Bikini Bottom. But by the end of the episode, it turns out Patrick wasn't supposed to be king, and it was actually supposed to be Gary. Now, if you look closer at the family tree, which they call the star tree in the episode, you can see that Gary is on it, and he's actually Patrick's cousin. Next, we have Bikini Bottom Mysteries. This was a official web series that was on SpongeBob SquarePants YouTube channel. The series began November 6th, 2018, and officially ended May 30th, 2019. It had 2 whole seasons, and it was based around random mysteries and conspiracy theories that people had about SpongeBob SquarePants. I don't know how many of you know this, but SpongeBob actually had a few Lego sets. Not off-brand Legos, they were real Lego sets. Stop motion is a really close part of the Lego community. I really don't know how they can do that. It probably takes them days just to get the right poses. But of course, since SpongeBob has their own Legos, people began making stop motions of Lego SpongeBob. As a kid, I remember I used to watch Lego SpongeBob stop motion all the time. SpongeBob's name was originally supposed to be just SpongeBoy, and the show was also originally supposed to be SpongeBoy Ahoy instead of SpongeBob SquarePants. The reason the name was changed was because SpongeBoy was already copyrighted by a mop company. King Neptune's design change. Throughout the series, they changed King Neptune's design a lot. The first design he had was this, and it was in the TV series. The second design was in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, the only good movie. And then they just changed a third time in one of those newer movies that they have put out. I really don't know why they like changing his design so much. The background characters throughout the series are special compared to background characters seen in any other series. I say this because every single background character isn't really a background character. They have names, they have personalities, some even have their own episodes around them. Like Tom here. Now you probably already know what is going to be talked about next. In the episode Chocolate with Nuts, SpongeBob and Patrick decide to sell chocolate so they can afford fancy things. Throughout the episode, they get scammed by some shady businessman who kept getting them to buy more and more bags and boxes. And from what I remember, they even bought a wagon from him. Throughout the episode, they kept getting chased by Fred, the character I talked about earlier. But they kept running away from him because they thought he was trying to kill them or steal their chocolate. The episode ends with Fred finally getting his chocolate, and SpongeBob and Patrick no longer being afraid of him. This episode is currently number 3 of the most watched SpongeBob episodes of all time. This episode also created a lot of memes that I'm sure you probably know of. This one right here being my favorite.
We're not doing so well, Patrick. We need a new approach, a new tactic.
I got it! Let's get naked!
No, let's save that for when we're selling real estate.
The next tier here is however you pronounce that. Okay, so there isn't really much to talk about with this tier. It's just a reference to this clip.
Excuse me, sir. I hope my horrible ugliness won't be a distraction to you.
Not at all, boy!
Handsome Squidward. This is a picture of handsome Squidward. The backstory of this picture is SpongeBob accidentally hits Squidward in the face with a door while at the Krusty Krab, and Squidward has to go to the hospital. The doctors at the hospital redesigned Squidward's face because it was damaged by the door, and everybody in Bikini Bottom thinks Squidward's new face is handsome. SpongeBob's age estimate. Nobody really knows SpongeBob's real age, but we do have an estimate. In Season 1's episode Driver's License, we can see on SpongeBob's driver's license his date of birth says July 14th, 1986. If this is truly his date of birth, then that would make SpongeBob around 39 years old. Next up, we have one of SpongeBob's most disturbing episodes with the Splinter. SpongeBob starts off the episode making Krabby Patties until he realizes that he has a splinter in his finger. He begins trying to find ways to get the splinter out of his finger, and he decides to use his spatula to get it out. The spatula just makes it worse. His thumb grows large sizes, and it starts spewing out green ooze. Mr. Krabs then comes into the kitchen to see SpongeBob's finger. Mr. Krabs became worried that SpongeBob's thumb would make him lose money, so he sent SpongeBob home for the day. At home, SpongeBob calls the doctor to see what is wrong with his finger. The doctor looks at his finger and tells him that his finger just has an infection from the splinter. All the doctor does is insert his syringe into SpongeBob's finger, and it becomes normal again. One-course meal controversies. A short amount of people actually think that the episode One-Course Meal is controversial, and this is why. In the episode, Mr. Krabs finds out Plankton's biggest fear, and it just so happens to be whales. So Mr. Krabs does everything that it takes to scare Plankton away from his restaurant. He dresses up his daughter Pearl, which is a whale, and makes her jump around, scream, and scare Plankton. Plankton was so terrified that he couldn't even go outside anymore. he thought he was going to be eaten by a whale, and he grew a beard and really long hair, and he was also thinking about killing himself. He said that he might walk into traffic to make the pain end. Yeah, after researching this more, this kind of topic is crazy for an episode of SpongeBob. A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie was an unreleased movie by Nickelodeon, which was supposed to come out in 2011, yet never did. It was only found because Amazon accidentally listed it as one of the movies to pre-order in 2014. According to the SpongeBob wiki, the plot of the movie was going to be that SpongeBob was being forgotten by people, so his boss created something called Spend a Day with SpongeBob, and many kids would enter the contest. One would win and spend a day with SpongeBob, but something would go wrong. The next entry is My Leg, which is a saying that the background character Fred would always say. He would always catch himself in the crossfire between the main characters. He would always get hurt, and he would always scream, "My leg." A couple years back, he had his own episode, which I think is a good episode compared to most of the other newer episodes. In this episode, we follow Fred as he continuously breaks his leg, and by the end of the episode, we find out he's been breaking his leg on purpose to see a nurse that he had a crush on. This next tier is a really good one. I'm sure most of you already know it, but it's Squidward's suicide. Now, the story that I remember is one day Squidward was doing a clarinet recital. That was until the audience started booing him, kicking him off the stage, and throwing tomatoes at him. Squidward expected that night to be cheerful, and he also expected the crowd to be proud of him, but the opposite happened. Many people who were watching the premiere reported that their TVs were lagging during the premiere, and before Squidward got off stage, the show just froze altogether. Eventually it unfroze, and Squidward was at his house, crawled up in a ball on his bed, crying. The episode stayed with Squidward crying for a few minutes, and then Squidward looked straight at the viewers with blood-red eyes. A eerie song began to play that some viewers recognized to be the song called Red Mist. What viewers also heard was people whispering to Squidward, "Do it." Viewers got really confused fast. Do what? Why were Squidward's eyes so red? Before they could think about anything, Squidward pulled out a gun from under his bed and shot himself. The Krabby Patty secret formula is one of Mr. Krabs' biggest secrets, but we've actually seen the recipe. Well, not really. I'm not sure if the recipe is legit or not, but in a few episodes we can see it, and I can't understand anything that it says. Some people created a theory that Mr. Krabs is actually making Krabby Patties with meat from whales. The reason people believe this is because crabs in real life are bottom feeders who eat dead whales. Some people also think that Mr. Krabs abducted Pearl after killing her mother. This is the last entry in this layer of the iceberg, and it's the Squidward Fancyton toenail scene.
Never mind! Maybe it won't show up on camera. Here, help me move this sofa.
You got it, Squiddy. Where are we moving her to?
Hang on, I'm trying to get a grip on the thing. Now don't move it till I say, ow! Okay, it's on my foot. Now don't.
Okay.
Ow! SpongeBob, I told you not to move it till I said, ow! Why do you keep moving it?
Cause you keep saying, ow!
So this is pretty similar to the splinter which I covered earlier in the iceberg. Squidward wanted to make his house all fancy with the help of Spongebob. And Spongebob did everything completely wrong. He got paint all over Squidward's house. He put a hole in the wall, and they had to move the furniture together. Spongebob didn't understand that Squidward was screaming because the couch was on his foot. And every time Squidward kept screaming, the couch would go deeper into his foot, ripping out his toenail and his skin. Layer 2 of the iceberg, starting with Bob the Sponge. Bob the Sponge was created by Steve Hillenburg in 1984, and this is basically a prototype of SpongeBob SquarePants. Bob the Sponge was made originally for a marine biology book. And if you look at some of the old art for Bob the Sponge, you can see that he kind of looks like SpongeBob's parents. So what I think happened is they took the design for Bob the Sponge and turned them into SpongeBob's parents, and they took the name Bob the Sponge and turned it into SpongeBob. The second entry for the second layer of this iceberg is Plankton swearing. There's a video online of the voice actor of Plankton swearing well in the Plankton voice. I'm not going to play this video because I don't want this video getting taken down, but if you just search Plankton swearing, you should be able to find it. Did you know that Johnny Depp actually played a character in SpongeBob? He played a one-time character in the episode SpongeBob SquarePants vs. the Big One. In this episode, he played a character named Jack Kahuna Laguna. Yeah, that's everything I have to say about that entry. On to the next one. SpongeBob homosexuality controversy. There's been a rumor going around forever that SpongeBob is actually gay. There are a few reasons that people believe this. One being that he talks in a real high-pitched voice, and he's always hanging around with Patrick and Squidward. These two clips right here are even more reason that people think SpongeBob is actually gay.
We'll take the Krusty Krab on the road! So long, lad. Make me lots of money.
Bye, Squidward. Bye, Mr. Krabs. Bye, Squidward.
You said bye, Squidward, twice.
I like Squidward.
Bob, what are you doing in here?
Steve Hillenburg came out and said that SpongeBob was supposed to be asexual. Perception of season 4 becoming appealing. In the early 2000s, SpongeBob season 4 had dropped, and everybody hated it because the animation changed. Everything was colorful, and the mild adult jokes weren't in the season anymore. But as the years went on, it looks like people actually learned to appreciate what we had at the time, because some people say that season 4 is the last good season of SpongeBob. Now we have the entry Barack Obama's favorite character. I could not find anything about this topic. All I found was some Indian news article that said Barack Obama likes SpongeBob. If you know anything about this, then say in the comments and I'll pin it. Astrology with Squidward. This is a series of short videos where Squidward would explain to you different astrologies. Apparently some of these shorts had gone missing and are now lost media. Welcome to part 2 of the SpongeBob Iceberg Explained. Leaving off from the last video is March 1st, 2018 hoax. What this refers to is the rumor that went around online that SpongeBob would be ending March 1st, 2018. But obviously that was just a lie, because SpongeBob is still on the air to this day. I don't know why this became such a big thing, because there was no proof at all that it was real to begin with. Jimmy Neutron takes over Nick. This was a programming event on Nickelodeon that happened in 2002. During this event, Jimmy Neutron would come on the screen and change something about the show that was on currently. One of those shows being Spongebob.
Oh, we're sorry, Mr. Krabs.
I want you boys to promise me you'll never go on those hooks again.
We promise, Mr. Krabs.
I need a sailor's promise. Repeat after me. Yo-ho, yo-ho. Near the hooks, I'll never go.
SpongeBob Super Bowl petition. This was a petition that was made in 2018 to get that SpongeBob episode where he sings the Maroon 5 song at the Super Bowl. The petition got 1.1 million signatures, and it actually did get SpongeBob to perform that song at the Super Bowl. Palestinian Krusty Krab. This was a restaurant that was located in Palestine, and it's not even official. I don't know how they haven't gotten sued, and I don't know if the restaurant is even still open. Due to what's happening in Palestine right now, I'm pretty sure that it's closed. Shanghai different endings. In this episode, SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward are all trapped on the Flying Dutchman's ship. The first time this episode had aired, it was actually an interactive special episode. Viewers would be asked to call in Patchy the Pirate and vote for a special ending. SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward would all get their own endings. In the episode, the Flying Dutchman would give 3 characters one wish. If the viewers would pick SpongeBob, then SpongeBob would wish for the Flying Dutchman to become vegan. This is the ending that had won the vote. But if viewers would have picked Patrick instead of SpongeBob, Patrick would have wished for a piece of gum. And finally, if the viewers picked Squidward, then Squidward would wish that SpongeBob and Patrick had no idea who he was. Next on the iceberg is Yummers. Yummer is a character that was found in the game files for the game SpongeBob Saves the Day. Nobody knows what this was used for, and nobody knows why it was so hidden in the files. I was a teenage Gary deleted scenes. There aren't actually any deleted scenes from this episode that we know of, but many people remember that there was actually a scene of Squidward transforming into a snail after accidentally injecting himself with the snail medicine. Now, Squidward does turn into a snail that episode, but there isn't a clip of him transforming into it. SpongeBob in real life. The YouTuber J Chase Films has a series where SpongeBob becomes a real person in the real world and causes a bunch of trouble. I actually remember watching this episode right here, and this was kind of like our generation's brain rot. Robo Squidward. Robo Squidward is a boss fight that's in the video game SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. Apparently it's not in the main storyline, but it is a boss fight that's in the multiplayer mode of the game. Speaking of the game, this next tier is also about the game. Patrick's Dream is an unused map for the game SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. The world is themed around ice cream and different kind of snacks that Patrick likes. The player would have to go around the map collecting different spatulas that were hidden. Once the spatulas were collected, the player could then proceed to the next part of the game. Glove World SpongeBob pilot intro. I couldn't find anything about the Glove World pilot intro, but I found this pilot intro from 1997.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
SpongeBob references in Phineas and Ferb. In an episode of Phineas and Ferb, Phineas finds a pink starfish and a yellow sponge while digging something out. In another episode, there's this boat that people like to compare to the Thug Tug from the SpongeBob movie, Reef Blower. In this episode, SpongeBob gets out his reef blower and starts annoying Squidward with it. He ends up blowing sand all over Squidward's face and the food that he was eating. This episode is one of the 3 pilot episodes. The episode had no dialogue in it, and it was only 3 minutes long. The last tier of this layer is Have a Bowl, Mr. Squidward by Cam Alt.
Oh, Mr. Squidward.
Now on to layer 3 of the iceberg. Roger Bumpus arrested. Roger Bumpus is the voice actor for Squidward, and he was arrested for a DUI in 2016. He was found leaning against his car, and he admitted to the officers that he had been drinking while driving. Sailor Mouth Uncensored. The season 2 episode Sailor Mouth is infamous because in that episode SpongeBob and Patrick learn swear words, and they use swear words throughout the episode. Not real swear words though, right? Wrong. The actors actually did use swear words behind the scenes, but they were just covered up by dolphin sounds in the episode. For a long time, viewers tried finding the uncensored version of the episode, and just a few years ago, they actually ended up finding something. Spongehead scaring kids. This is an episode where SpongeBob gets chased by jellyfish. He ends up running away from society altogether because the jellyfish wouldn't leave him alone. He eventually goes crazy and creates something called the Sponge Hedge. The reason this episode scared so many kids is because it played eerie music throughout it, and also there were only a few characters in it. This caused the episode to feel uncanny to people. Squidward's father. This right here is a picture of Squidward's father, Jeff Tentacles. The only time he actually appeared in any SpongeBob media was in the book Hooray for Dads. And he was only talked about in one episode of SpongeBob, which was Crabborg. Have You Seen the Snail original plot. In the released version of Have You Seen the Snail, Gary runs away from SpongeBob because SpongeBob stops feeding him. SpongeBob gets sad after realizing that Gary's gone, and him and Patrick start looking everywhere for him. Meanwhile, Gary gets abducted by an old lady who thinks that Gary is her old pet. She then overfeeds Gary, and Gary decides to run away and go back to SpongeBob. But the original plot was the grandma wasn't overfeeding Gary, but she was trying to kill him. According to the writer of the episode, she was supposed to have an axe to try and kill Gary, but they replaced her axe with a tray of cookies, and they made it look like she was just overfeeding him. Super Sponge lewd concept art. Now, this entry is going to be a little different because it's not going to be me that's talking about it. It's actually going to be my friend Sonic.
Hi, I'm Sonic, and I'm going to be reading one of the entries from the SpongeBob SquarePants Iceberg, and I'm going to be talking about the Super Sponge. It was, apparently it was supposed to be like some scrapped SpongeBob's game called, I think it was called, that's where the name is, Super Sponge, and it was supposed to be a video game, just like Battle for Bikini Bottom, but secretly hidden inside the game files were drawings of the characters having intercourse with each other. And people found these files somehow. I don't know where the hell it came from. I think the game was unused. It was like the Game Boy games or something. I don't know. But there were files named Cowgirl Breasts, and the other name was SpongeBob Patrick Hump. And it included, I think this was the only photo. This is the photo I saw, and it has SpongeBob giving Patrick back shots, and under it says SpongeBob takes Patrick up his starfish. They spelled Patrick wrong, and there are two other pictures underneath that drawing, where Patrick's giving it to Sandy, and there's a gimp suit SpongeBob with a whip and very long high heels and spikes along his arms, and it's such a pleasant sight to see.
Stolen SpongeBob rooftop balloons. In 2015, Burger King had a crossover with SpongeBob, and part of this crossover, they had SpongeBob balloons on top of every Burger King. This didn't last too long though, because people decided to steal these SpongeBob balloons off of the Burger King and sell it on eBay. The 2009 Burger King controversy. In 2009, Burger King had a different SpongeBob crossover where they sold a line of toys, and also SpongeBob was featured in the Burger King commercial. This commercial is controversial because it is a song talking about SpongeBob's butt. Morning Glory. This was the song that was supposed to play at the end of the SpongeBob movie, but it was changed last minute to Ocean Man because it was more fitting. SpongeBob lost dubs. There were SpongeBob dubs that are now lost. These dubs came in Arabic, Armenian, and Danish. These are all now lost media. The only proof they existed is this picture right here. Just One Bite deleted scene. In the episode Just One Bite, there's a deleted scene that was taken out of the original episode because they thought that children would start playing with fire. In this scene, Squidward tries breaking into the Krusty Krab, and he thinks the security is just a bucket of water, but it's actually a bucket of gasoline. He opens the front door to the Krusty Krab, and the bucket of gasoline falls on him, and Squidward catches on fire. Procrastination deleted scene. In the episode Procrastination, SpongeBob has to get an essay done, while everybody else is having fun outside during the summer. What's keeping SpongeBob motivated to take the essay instead of going outside and having fun with his friends is the fact that he might get his driver's license.
And the completion of this essay, I'll be one step closer to my driver's license.
So the part that didn't make it into the final episode is SpongeBob starts to think about what he could do with his driver's license, and it cut to a video of a car crashing. Scaredy Pants, SpongeBob's brain. In the Halloween special episode called Scaredy Pants, there is a part of the episode where you could see SpongeBob's brain. I guess it could be scary to some viewers, but nobody really complained that it was scary. That's all I have to say about this entry. There isn't much to talk about, so Texas deleted scene. In the episode Texas, Sandy decides to go back home to Texas, while SpongeBob and Patrick try getting her to stay in Bikini Bottom. But this episode has a very short deleted scene, which was removed, I guess, for it looking like SpongeBob was choking to death.
Wait, if you don't, if I can't,
SpongeBob Rehydrated is a remake of the game SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. They changed the graphics to make it look more like modern SpongeBob, and they ported it over to Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch. Golden replica in real life SpongeBob house. This is a resort where anybody that is a fan of SpongeBob can rent out the house and live in SpongeBob's house for a little. Plankton got served. You may or may not have seen this image of Plankton on the internet. This image originally came from a creepypasta called Plankton Got Served. This takes place in the episode One Course Meal. But instead of Plankton only talking about killing himself, he actually does. We see Plankton laying in the middle of the road until a Bikini Bottom bus comes and hits him. And the episode ends after seeing the damage that the bus had done on his face. SpongeBob and Chabahar. This refers to a 2018 movie that is not official and is dubbed in Chabahar. Floorboard Harry. Floorboard Harry is an unused character from the episode Graveyard Shift. If you don't know, at the end of the episode Graveyard Shift, the lights start flickering, and it turns out that the person who is flickering the lights is Nosfeltru, but it wasn't always supposed to be him. Originally, it was supposed to be Floorboard Harry, but it was scrapped for unknown reasons. That was the end of Layer 3 of the Iceberg. Starting with Layer 4 is Happiness Squared SpongeBob. In 2010, the YouTube channel Raw Roto would upload demo footage of a game called SpongeBob Happiness Squared. In the video, you see footage of this supposed game. You see different landmarks that were never in any other game before, and different features that weren't in any other game as well. Unfortunately, it turned out that this isn't any unreleased game, but it's actually an early version of the game Truth or Square. Lost International Scene Edits. Scene edits are when a country edits out a part of a show because they think it's too inappropriate for their country. They usually switch around words or just cut out that part altogether. But some of the scene edits for SpongeBob are missing and are now lost media. Green Beret is a short show that was made by Steven Hillenburg in 1992. It looks pretty weird, and it kind of reminds me of those Adult Swim shows that would just turn on at night. SpongeBob: The Legend of the Lost Spatula. This was the very first SpongeBob game, and it came out on the Game Boy Color in March 30th, 2001. In the game, you are playing as SpongeBob trying to find the sacred golden spatula. If SpongeBob does find the golden spatula, then he will be known as the greatest cook ever. And that's really it. Next we have Wormholes. This is another short that Steven Hillenburg made, kind of like Green Beret. This short was actually compared a lot to SpongeBob because you can tell some of the features in the short look like features that are also in SpongeBob. Battle for Bikini Bottom unused Goo Lagoon level. Players found the original version of the Goo Lagoon level hidden in the game. I actually like the original version more than the one that ended up being put in the game because look at this. It's actually detailed more than the one that was in the game. It's more open. Spongebill. Spongebill is a demonic version of SpongeBob that was created in a YouTube poop. The name comes from 1. Spongebob and 2. Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. String Anime. String Anime is this YouTube channel right here that made this lovely video. Next is SpongeBob Slendy Pants. This is a fan-made game about SpongeBob becoming Slenderman. In the game, you are being chased by SpongeBob Slenderpants through the woods, and you have to collect different items to be able to escape him. This game peaked about 13 years ago, and many YouTubers played it back then, including Markiplier. Lost in Time commercial 2006. This was a commercial for the SpongeBob and Burger King collab. The commercial would show off the many toys that you would get in each kid's meal. Doing this part of the Iceberg is really made me realize that Burger King and SpongeBob have had a lot of collabs. Welcome to part 3 of the SpongeBob Iceberg Explained. This is the final part of the iceberg, so I hope you enjoy. Continuing with layer 4 is Nickelodeon Summer Splash commercials. Nickelodeon Summer Splash was a weekly summer block that ran from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Every weekday, a different 3-hour marathon would have aired. Between commercials, the SpongeBob characters would announce what show would be getting the 3-hour marathon. In 2002, this was replaced with the Nickelodeon's Summer Beach House. Not a lot changed for this, they just made it so other characters would announce what show was on. Characters from the Rugrats, Rocket Power, Hey Arnold, and the Wild Thornberrys would get their own 3-hour marathons. The Burger Mess. This is a series of SpongeBob games that are lost media. If you look these games up on Google, you cannot find any information about them. They're believed to be scrapped games from the SpongeBob plug and play. The only reason we know these exist is because they're listed on the SpongeBob wiki. Nickelodeon Blimp Short. This is a short that was played for the Kids' Choice Awards. It begins with SpongeBob just walking down a road, and then a Kids' Choice Awards blimp falls into his head.
Go SpongeBob! Go SpongeBob! Huh? What's this? Orange blimp for me? Woo! All right, go SpongeBob! Yes! Gary, what's a blimp?
Ain't Life a Beach. Ain't Life a Beach is a press kit that was made in 1999. It was the very first piece of SpongeBob merchandise because it was created before the show was even on air. It is also the rarest piece of SpongeBob media because it was only given to people who were working on the show. Nickelodeon Game Builder. This is a lost Flash game where you could create your own SpongeBob game. The game was basically just Mario Maker but with SpongeBob characters. Gravjet Racing. This is another SpongeBob game that isn't talked about. It was a kart racing game where you would race as different Nickelodeon characters. It was basically just the first version of Nickelodeon kart racing. Nick Extreme Sports. This is a game that was supposed to launch on the Hyperscan console. It was created by Mattel in 2006, but nor the console or the game was ever released to the public. You Pick Live. This was a 5-day special event where various Nickelodeon characters would promote the release of the Wild Thornberrys movie. One of these characters being Patchy the Pirate from Spongebob. Tea at the Treedom original title card. This is what the original title card for the episode Tea at the Treedom looked like. The episode was also going to be called A Fish Called Sandy. SpongeBob Rehydrated audio. When the game SpongeBob Rehydrated first dropped, it had a lot of audio issues. Sometimes the dialogue wasn't synced with subtitles, voices were playing too quickly or quietly, and voices did not match the frame rate. Ripped Pants original plot. I can't find anything about the original plot, but I did find this while searching. Apparently for the episode, the song that they had SpongeBob sing stole a verse from this song from the Beach Boys. Naked Squidward. This is from an episode where SpongeBob is in charge of the Krusty Krab, and Squidward keeps worrying about him burning down the Krusty Krab. This eventually drives Squidward insane, so he runs to the Krusty Krab to make sure SpongeBob didn't burn it down, but he forgot to put his clothes on. While he's running to the Krusty Krab, the only thing that's covering him up is bubbles from his bubble bath. Over time, the bubbles end up popping, and by the time he's at the Krusty Krab, he is completely naked. Squeaky Boots alternate ending. In the episode Squeaky Boots, Mr. Krabs ends up giving SpongeBob his old pair of rubber boots, but he instantly regrets it after finding out the pair of boots were really squeaky, and SpongeBob begins squeaking the boots non-stop. In the ending that everybody remembers, Mr. Krabs ends up going on a trip with his daughter after getting rid of the boots, but then Mr. Krabs gets hiccups that sound really similar to the squeaking of the boots. Now here is a different ending that some people got. Mr. Krabs' parents were originally supposed to be dead. I can't find anything about this. If anybody knows anything about it, then put it in the comments, please. The last entry of Layer 4 is Girl Power. This is a fan fiction where Sandy, Pearl, Mrs. Puff, and Grandma SquarePants all form a team to take down Plankton. If you want to read this fan fiction, then search SpongeBob Girl Power on fandom. Now we are on to the 5th and final layer of this iceberg, starting with SpongeBob Lost Episode commercials. These were commercials that were meant to promote the episode A Sponge That Could Fly. In most of these commercials, they just talked about a sweepstakes that they were having. A viewer would call the number and win prizes. The winner would win a trip to Jamaica, $1,000, and a treasure chest containing a bunch of SpongeBob merch and snacks. Pre-Hibernation Week alternate ending. Pre-Hibernation Week is the season 2 episode where Sandy and SpongeBob play sports and different games before Sandy has to go in hibernation. These games end up getting dangerous, and at the end of the episode, SpongeBob has enough of the games and says something pretty relatable.
I can't play with you anymore. I just can't take the games. They're tearing me apart. There, I said it. Now just promise we can still be friends.
But some people got an ending where Sandy starts destroying Bikini Bottom right before falling asleep. SpongeBob says thank Neptune for hibernation before the episode ends. Grotesque Crabs storyboard. The entire storyboard for the episode Grotesque Crabs has leaked online. The storyboard has no audio, no background music, or any dialogue between characters. It's just the original drawing before it was turned into an episode. Squilly Squilliam Returns storyboard. Just like the last entry, the entire storyboard for Squilliam Returns was also leaked online. Sandy gets arrested. In the episode, someone is in the kitchen with Sandy. Sandy gets arrested. The episode begins with Plankton stealing Sandy's fursuit so that he could go to the Krusty Krab and get the secret formula. This makes Sandy have to go out in public with no clothes on so that she could get her fursuit back from Plankton. By the time she does catch Plankton, she is being arrested for public nudity. SpongeBob doppelgangers. I think that this is referring to this picture of SpongeBob here. This picture of SpongeBob is now a pretty big meme, but it was originally just somebody's OC of SpongeBob that they posted to fandom. Gary being milked. People think that SpongeBob has been milking Gary because of this part that is in the episode New Digs.
Glass of warm snail milk. Why doesn't it work?
Now in that clip, SpongeBob said snail milk. This made people assume that SpongeBob was milking Gary for snail milk. Atlantis Squarepantis being split into two parts. Atlantis Squarepantis is a season 5 episode where multiple SpongeBob characters take a journey to Atlantis. This episode was a special and it was split up into two parts for more hype on TV. Squidward being ran over by a truck. Neptune's Party. This is an episode from season 6 where Neptune wants to throw a party for his 5,000th birthday. For his birthday, he wants to have his son there to celebrate with him, who he hasn't seen in years. But when SpongeBob finally finds his son, it turns out that the reason he hasn't seen him in so long is because he wants nothing to do with him. Fuzzy's Golden Belt. Fuzzy Acorns is a character that teaches SpongeBob and Sandy karate. He was only in one episode where Sandy was trying to learn how to get a black belt. I don't know anything about him having a golden belt unless it's from this part of the episode where he's holding up a yellow belt, but that's not gold. Anyways, on to the next entry. Sandy's original naked design. This was the original design for Sandy in that one episode where Plankton steals her fur, and I can see why it was scrapped because that is horrifying. Captain Frosty Mug's red beard. Captain Frosty Mug is a character who is going to give SpongeBob his license to make milkshakes, but if you look at the original design for the character, you can see he was originally going to have a red beard. Hooky dead fish rumor. In the episode Hooky, SpongeBob and Patrick start hanging out in some place where a lot of hooks are. They think it's just a playground, but it's really just fishermen that are looking to catch fish there. When Mr. Krabs finds out that they've been hanging out by the hooks, he tells them that it's just fishermen and that many fish have gotten killed over by the hooks. This isn't really a rumor, it's just the truth based off what Mr. Krabs said. So many fish probably did get killed by the hooks. Plankton taking out SpongeBob's brain. In the episode Welcome to the Chum Bucket, Mr. Krabs bets SpongeBob while playing poker with Plankton. Plankton ends up winning, and that means SpongeBob has to now work at the Chum Bucket. But SpongeBob doesn't listen to Plankton, so Plankton takes out SpongeBob's brain and makes a SpongeBob robot. Mr. Puff is in Shell City rumor. People think that this pufferfish that was in the SpongeBob movie is Mrs. Puff's husband. There isn't really any solid proof that it's her husband, it's just another pufferfish. You'll never guess what I found in my pants. In the episode One Crab's Trash, SpongeBob says you'll never guess what I found in my sock. Go ahead, guess. But somebody online remembers that he said guess what I found in my pants. SpongeBob and Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. A fan of both shows has written an entire story with casting, and they even drew pictures of SpongeBob if he was in Flapjack. But from what I know, SpongeBob was never really in the show. That was the entire SpongeBob Iceberg explained in one video. I really hope you enjoyed. This has been Speedy Green Fox. Have a good night.